I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and this is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm taking the taboos of menopause and perimenopause and bringing light to the dark. No bullshit, no shame. It's time for us to gain a new paradigm in female health, out with the old and in with the new, and I'm bringing fresh perspectives from someone in the arena. I've been practicing women's health for nearly 20 years, and I'm spilling the tea on what it means to live at midlife, knowing that the best is yet to come. I'm sharing my Gen X approach to living through this transition. Sassy, a bit sweary, and always honest. Tactical tips and instantly usable information is my aim. I hope to make you laugh and that you learn something new that helps you embrace the change. Together, we bring power to the peri. Onward to the podcast. Today on the show, I'm excited to welcome back a woman who has become a friend in this menopause space. And we were both featured in the Globe and Mail article in March of 2023 on podcasters in menopause. And of course, we're both Canadian, so of course, we're going to connect about a lot of things. I'm welcoming Andrea Donsky to the show today. Now, Andrea and I have had a conversation before, but as the world just keeps evolving when it comes to this menopause thing, there was so much more to say. And I love this episode because she packs it tight with usable things for helping you feel better now. But really, the reason why I was asking Andrea to join me on the show today was because she's just done some really amazing research that's been accepted for publication in the Menopause Journal. It'll come out in December of 2024. She had 4 abstracts that were accepted, and they really show us a number of different areas, but the vastness of the menopause symptom landscape. And she and her research partner have identified 103 symptoms known as the menopause symptom list. And she and I talk about the fact that there's this, free-floating list out there that says there's 47 symptoms of menopause, but nobody can figure out where the source of it is. So she went about creating something that was actually verifiable. And you can go to her website and fill out her surveys. They are free to do. You go to wearemorphous.com, and she's got these amazing, they really, having filled out quite a few of them myself, they really made me think about my symptoms in a very different way. And I just love that. And Andrea just got back from presenting to the Menopause Society. She had 4 posters accepted for the research section, and she got to speak to the menopause movers and shakers in the United States primarily about how this is shaping up. This is great information because one of the things she shares with us is just how many women struggle to even get their menopause symptoms acknowledged and recognized. Apparently 40% of us are completely dismissed at the doctors, and the other 60% have somewhere between 3 and 7 visits to the doctor before they're actually recognized as in menopause. Fascinating. So I think this can really start to change the landscape, but we know medicine takes time to turn around, and there are great practitioners out there that are doing a much better job than sort of this standard approach. So Andrea also shares the different supplements that she likes to use with her menopausal ladies. The ones she recommends are most helpful, and we do a deep dive on those supplements, which is great. But finally, we needed to talk about her virtual summit, her virtual conference that's coming up. It's called The Power of Menopause. And The Power of Menopause is going to be available for free online on October 25th, which is so exciting. I happen to be one of the speakers, so in case you want to show up for that. But you can go to thepowerofmenopause.com. That's thepowerofmenopause.com and register for free. And she, Andrea gets the best people involved. So there's a really great lineup that day of TED style talks, which is going to be a challenge for me because y'all know I like to talk. So let's see if I can break this down into 20 minutes. Anyways, let me introduce my friend, Andrea Donsky. Known as the menopause educator and researcher to her 340,000 plus TikTok followers, Andrea Donsky is a nutritionist on a mission to change the conversation around perimenopause and menopause. As an entrepreneur with nearly 25 years of experience in the health and wellness industry, Andrea is a respected, multiple award-winning influencer, soon-to-be published researcher, media personality, speaker, and author. Andrea hosts the popular podcast Menopause Reimagined and appears as the menopause expert on television across North America. To date, Andrea has appeared in more than 500 TV segments and has been featured on every major network across the US and Canada. Her latest venture, wearemorphous.com, helps women to reimagine menopause as a journey of empowerment so they feel heard, supported, and validated. Morphous empowers women to take control of their symptoms and health with nutrition, lifestyle, research, and science-backed supplements. Andrea is currently writing a book about menopause, which will be published in the spring of 2026 by Simon & Schuster. You can follow her on TikTok and Instagram at Andrea Donsky and We Are Morphous to learn more. I will, of course, leave all of the links in the show notes so you don't have to worry about writing it down. But before we get a chance to talk to Andrea today, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor. It's important to me that the supplements I use are of the highest quality, and that's why for more than 3 years, I've been drinking AG1. It is researched and developed by an in-house team of scientists, doctors, and nutritionists with decades of experience in their respective fields. Quality for AG1 isn't just a buzzword. It's a commitment backed by expert-led scientific research, high-quality ingredients, and rigorous testing. I know I can trust what's in every scoop of AG1 because they obsess over product quality, the standards of manufacturing partners, and sustainable practices. It's easy and fast to use. Drinking AG1 mixed with water in 1 scoop a day covers my nutritional bases. Prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes for gut support, B vitamins and rhodiola for energy support, folate, magnesium, and ashwagandha for stress support, and vitamin C and zinc for my immune health. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D plus K2 and 5 free travel packs with your first subscription at drinkag1.com/Fiona Lovely. That's drinkag1.com/Fiona Lovely. This is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and I'm joined today with a friend who's been on the show before, Andrea Donsky, nutritionist and soon to be published menopause researcher. It seems like you've got some updates to share with us, sister, since the last time we talked. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Fiona. It's so great to see you, and I just adore you.
Thank you. The feeling is so mutual. I love what you're doing to change the conversation around the actual symptoms of menopause. And I'd love us to go down that rabbit hole. So fill us in. What have you been up to?
Ooh, so like you said, soon to be published, a menopause researcher. So I've been really active on putting together. So we have our surveys on our website. We have 10 surveys right now, and we've been analyzing the data, and I've been putting together, I submitted 4 abstracts to the Menopause Society that got accepted and will be published in the December journal called Menopause, which is very exciting for me because knowing that all the work we've been doing on, at Morphous and with our community, knowing that it's paying off because we're changing the way physicians, the way natural health practitioners, the way health practitioners in general, consumers, everybody, women who are going through it are now able to look at perimenopause and menopause has been so rewarding. And that is so exciting. And I'm working on my book that comes out in 2026. So I've been busy.
Amazing. Yes. The book pursued by itself is a full-time job, isn't it? And here you are doing these other things.
It really is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you and I had a conversation recently that went something like this. I sent you a text message saying, "What do you think about this whole when you read that hot flashes are the hallmark sign of menopause?" Do you remember what you said back to me?
Probably something along the lines of, "Oh my god, that needs to change."
You said, "I laugh because I know that there is no basis in the science on that."
Oh, is that what
And
I
I
said?
went,
There you go.
"Yes, yes." And I went, "Okay, this is something we need to talk about."
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of medical practitioners, the ones that are holding the ability to prescribe HRT for women, who do not understand the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause. And a lot of them that think that unless a woman has hot flashes, she is not possibly in perimenopause or menopause.
Mm.
So, but that is not at all what your research has shown.
No, I mean, that is really I think it's a misunderstanding for a lot of people because, when I speak and I'm speaking in front of a crowd of people, the first question I ask is, "What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the word menopause?" And all the time, 100% of the time, it's hot flashes. So it's the most synonymous symptom that we think about when it comes to perimenopause and menopause, but it's not the most common. And that's what's so interesting. And hot flashes for me was the reason that I realized I was even in this stage of life because when I was 47, I got my first hot flash. But and that my immediate thought was, wait a minute, am I in menopause? I didn't even know perimenopause. And I know we talked about that on your the last time I was on your podcast. But for most people, we don't realize that there are so many other symptoms. And my research has showed me that hot flashes is actually number 10 on the top 10 most common symptoms. It's not number one. And I think that that's where we really have to do a lot of education and help physicians, help healthcare practitioners understand that while hot flashes are a symptom and a very common one, it isn't the most common one. And it also isn't the most, from anywhere from number 1 to 9. It's actually the number 10 most common one. So it's really important that we understand that there are so many other symptoms that we're experiencing, 103 plus symptoms. So when women will come into go speak to their doctor and share how they're feeling, if hot flashes are on that list, great, because they're probably familiar with that. But if they aren't, there's so many other symptoms. And no, you don't have to have hot flashes to be in perimenopause or menopause, right? So, and that's what our research is showing.
Mhm. So, can you tell us what the top 10 symptoms are?
Absolutely. So the number one, so this is based on research. So it's our signs and symptoms survey, which is our groundbreaking survey. And we launched it in 2022. And the abstract that's going to be published is based on 22 and 39 people, so 2,239 women. It's ongoing. So now we have almost 5,000 responses. So it keeps going. And I will share the most common symptoms based on the 5,000 responses. So where we are today. So number one is fatigue, exhaustion. Can't get out of bed, you're super tired, or you're just tired by like 3 o'clock, you're exhausted, you're dragging yourself. Number two is brain fog. Number three are sleep issues. Number four, memory loss. Number five, anxiety. Number six, loss of libido. Number seven, joint pain. Number eight, lack of concentration. Number nine, lack of focus. And number 10, hot flashes.
Wow. And so, what stands out to me, as we've talked about before, is how 9 out of 10 of those are brain based. And
I,
you,
yeah.
yes, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the way we present it from a data standpoint is 50% of the top 10 are brain based. And then that's what I love about your insight, and which is what I have in my book, because I have a quote from you, is
Thank you.
that you're saying it's more like 90%, which I think is, I mean, think about it, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we think about menopausal symptoms as being a physical thing, but I mean, it is just as much a mental emotional thing.
Absolutely. Well, and neurochemical. And, as somebody who practices clinical neuroscience in my functional neurology practice, I understand what makes the body work and I understand the mechanisms behind in the brain what creates these symptoms in our bodies. And when I look at your list, which I'm just going to bring up on the screen here, when I look at your list, the only one to me that does not show up as a brain based is joint pain.
Mm,
And actually, from a functional neurological lens, there's even an argument for joint pain on that one. But
mm,
so we'll put that one down because that one's a stretch. So that means out of those symptoms, one for me are not, and I will talk about that. You're having a virtual summit at the end of this month of October, which is Menopause Awareness Month, and you've kindly asked me to come and speak to your community on this very subject. Is where essentially the cognitive impacts of menopause. But I hear this research, Andrea, and I'm just amazed. I'm so glad to hear it's about to enter the research database because it's so important for women and their doctors to understand that menopause is far beyond hot flashes.
so far beyond. And, and then if you think about it too, when women, especially in my community on social media, a lot of women will complain about weight gain, will complain about weight fluctuations, itchy ears, all of those other symptoms. And for me, when I think about weight gain, it is such a common symptom, but again, it's not in the top 10 for the majority of women. And we're talking 5,000 women, right? So it's so interesting how what our perception is of these symptoms, but when it comes down to actually looking at the data, it's like there's that kind of it puts it all into perspective for you as to where it all lies. And these are all, by the way, debilitating for any of you who are listening now and you're like, oh, I have probably 100 of those 103 plus symptoms. I understand because I was there. I had so many symptoms and I didn't realize. So when I started perimenopause, and I think back now, one of my first symptoms was phantom smells. Phantom smells are when you smell things that other people don't. I probably started in my mid 30s. I'm going to say probably around 36. I went to the doctor several times. I had tests done, and the tests always came back saying, you're fine. We don't know what's causing it. Looking back now, I'm like, oh, well, phantom smells is a very common symptom, yet it's so nobody knows about it. It's so not well known. And I think that now what's going to happen, and I'm hoping, is that we're going to look at these symptoms in a different way, and we're going to look at them in we have the full list on our website. You can print them out, you can check them off, you can bring them to your doctor. And it's really important that we together as a community help to educate everyone around us, including our doctors. So one of the surveys that are going to be the abstract that will be published in the journal Menopause in December is called our Doctor's Visit Survey. And so you mentioned the Menopause Society. So I just came back. I was there last month and I presented 4 posters. And so it's a medical conference on menopause, and I presented 4 posters of our research. And you would ask me before we went live, you're like, so how was it received? And I love that question because our posters and our research was so well received. And what made me so happy is that so many of the doctors there said to me, thank you for doing this research. It is so needed. We really need to know and understand so much more about menopause symptoms. And the doctor's visit survey, and I went through the posters with them and they agreed with me. So we looked at where we need some of this change to happen. And the doctor's visit survey showed that women are going to their doctors, and these are women over the age of 35. So generally, I'd say 35 to 60. So we're going to our doctors with any of those 103 plus symptoms. And a lot of the doctors are not making the connection between how we're feeling and it being perimenopause and menopause. So we're going to our doctors, only 25%, only 1/4 of us are going to our doctors once until that connection is made. 75% of us are going anywhere from 2 times to 5+ times. And in many cases, a lot of women who are going to their doctor more than 5 times still don't have answers. So this is where that education comes in and that awareness comes in, and we want to see flip on its side, because in a couple of years, when I go back and I present my, and I show my research again, I'm hoping that it's 75% have now made the connection on that first visit, and only a quarter, or, obviously I hope it's 100%, but we're looking at, math and statistics, but hopefully that'll change because it'll save women so much time and money and, missing work and relationships. And, it's everything that's included in that time that you spend trying to figure out what is wrong with me. Why do I not feel like myself? Why do I feel like someone has taken over me? So this will help to answer a lot of questions so that we can really help women. And I don't like to use the word diagnose because menopause is not a disease, but I like to use it only because it's easy to understand, but to really to make that connection between how we're feeling and it being this phase of life.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So you and I are both here in Canada, and of course, our government covers our. We have universal health care here in Canada, and when I hear you say, correct me if I've got the numbers wrong, 75% of women need 3 to 5 visits to their doctors before they're actually acknowledged. Is that correct?
So I'll break it down by actual. So it's 75% are between 2 and 5 plus times. So 2 to 3 times. So 40% of the women have seen their doctors 2 to 3 times before the
Okay.
connection was made.
Yep.
18% 4 to 5 times. 17% more than five or more, like more than 5 times.
Okay, so when we're in a system that's looking for efficiencies and how to spend less money, like this is bananas. 7 visits to acknowledge that a woman is in perimenopause and probably what she needs is some estrogen or maybe a different nutrition or maybe some movement. Like, I mean, come on. That's so
It's a
wasteful.
lot. The time, the money, the amount of relationships that fall apart. I mean, I've had women heartbreaking stories who DM me and message me all the time, and I'm sure the same for you, how their
Yes.
relationships, menopause ruined their relationships, how, there's so much that's involved. Work, women who are taking time off work. If only we're able to discover it and make that connection so much sooner and treat women and get so they can get the treatment or at least understand what's happening, we would be able to save so much time and money and so many more things. So yeah, you're and by the way, which is interesting because we're based in Canada and most of my audience is in the US, one of the things I wanted to really understand was we have very different healthcare systems in both countries, yet the numbers were very similar. It's not like in Canada we're, showing it a lot sooner or the connections being made sooner. It literally was across the board between Canada and the US. The difference was it was a little better in other countries. And I'm assuming those other countries, because we didn't ask, is more like the UK and Ireland, Europe is more what I'm thinking.
Yes.
So it was very interesting to see that there wasn't much of a difference between Canada and the US.
So to me, that speaks to the problem being the education of our doctors and the prescribers that are primarily doing the diagnosing and treatment basis for I mean, that are in not the allied health professionals, but the ones that are in the system here. So interesting.
Oh, and I have one more stat to share, which is also you're going to
Yes.
find mind blowing on the doctor's visit survey. Is I also wanted to know who brought up. So, for those who actually, when they went to their doctor and they shared their symptoms, which by the way, 90% of the women said in the survey, which was 1,050 women, said that they share their symptoms with their doctor or healthcare provider. I wanted to know who brought up the topic. So, 75% of the women said they brought the topic up to their doctor. So I thought that was interesting. Only 10% of the doctors brought up the topic to them.
Wow.
Only 10%. And 40% said they brought it up to their doctor and their doctor was dismissive. So when I was at the Menopause Society, I was talking to a lot of doctors and they were like, we're not surprised because I mean, we're talking about these are obviously women, mostly in Canada and the US, a little bit in different countries, but the women or the doctors who were at the conference, they're there because they want to learn about menopause, but a lot of doctors don't know, or they weren't attending. So they said they weren't surprised. So we're hoping to get that 40% number down and that 10% number way up.
Such a misunderstanding by the medical community about what is actually happening to a woman at midlife.
Oh
And I
yeah.
have a hard time when I hear from my patients that their doctor refuses to test their blood work, look at their blood work for hormones, or says it's not menopause because you're still bleeding, stuff like that, right? I hear that every single day, and I'm like, wake up! Like, are you not paying attention? Like, just wake up. Anyways, I want to say something about the bringing up the symptoms. I think what is really obvious to me in the last few months is just how much humanity is struggling. And this is when I'm in the office talking to my patients and I see how much mental health we're having concerns with. Okay. So when you talk about the number, first of all, it's difficult to talk about your mental health. with anybody, even with the mental health professionals. You're like, okay, what's happening? Is this lack of sleep? Is this a crappy relationship? Is it ongoing job stress or money stress or whatever? Or is it something else? And so the number you say, only 10% of doctors are actually bringing up the topic of menopause with their patients, which means now we're not even really understanding, especially the mental health. And what I'm saying is that women between the ages of 35 and 60, although there are definitely reasons for that to be expanded as well, but let's just use that. Number one, the far more likely to commit suicide during that time.
Mm, mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So right away, I'm thinking we're not understanding women's health because I don't, I, maybe you've had this experience, but this is been my part of my experience in perimenopause is I way experienced the dip in mood, in confidence, in certainty around things I've been doing my whole entire life. I had the inner critic return. She came rushing back. That bitch, I did not miss her.
I love that bitch. Yeah, go away. We don't want you here.
Right? Like, she showed up after 25 years. I'm like, "Ooh, I know who you are. Go away. I'm not
Exactly.
interested." Now, what was interesting was my nurse practitioner said the confidence and the mind stuff, other than being estrogen, is also a testosterone problem, interestingly enough. But that's for a conversation for another day. But I think it's difficult for us to really speak it. It's even hard for me to say that to you, Andrea, even though I know you are the most compassionate person. And I know everyone in my community is listening and going, Dr. Lovely's just like me. And I am.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I talk about it, because we need to talk about it. And I get quite concerned when I look at those suicide numbers and I think, how many of those women could we have helped feel better and enough like themselves that they didn't have to take drastic action?
Mhm.
And I think our doctors really need to be way better informed about this very thing.
Absolutely. And there are other reasons. So there's so many different reasons as to what what causes that, right? So or what leads up to that. So I'll share an example. So two things. Number one, if I look at the top 20 most common symptoms, lack or low self-esteem is over 40% of the women share that that's something they're experiencing. So that bitch is coming up for a lot of us, not just you.
Freaking FO.
I'm like, she's coming up for a lot of us. So, I mean, it's very common. And we also have a lot of us have social anxiety. So there's a lot of things that play into that. But to share my personal experience about what you're talking about is a couple of years, I ended up having a massive breakdown. I don't know if we talked about this, but I was in bed for 2 months. I had incredible
Mm.
anxiety, depression, and I ended up and suicidal thoughts. And I ended up finding out that I had something called Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Mm.
And it's something, and this is why it's so important. So we need our mental health practitioners to understand what's happening to us from a mental health standpoint, and are also our doctors to understand what's happening to our bodies themselves. Things are changing. In my case, it's an autoimmune condition, right? And I've always had thyroid issues, but we're more susceptible to autoimmune conditions as we age, and women in particular. So this is why it's so important that we are that everybody is educated so we understand what's happening, because I would never have thought in a million years that that would have been the cause for my severe depression.
Mhm.
And so it's all around, Fiona. We need so much more like education, like you were saying, doctors and the women themselves. So we ourselves, and this is why podcasts like Not Your Mother's Menopause and my podcast, these are important tools to empower women to understand what's happening to our bodies in this phase of life, so that we have the knowledge, so that we don't go into whatever the next phase of this of life for us not understanding, or at least not trying to put together a puzzle, right? We're trying to like puzzle together the pieces, because that's where we can take charge and control of our life. So be like, wait, maybe something's going on, maybe I need to do this, maybe we should go down this rabbit hole to try and figure out what's happening. But yes, to
Mhm.
your point, it is much more common for us in our 50s, which is
Mhm.
it's very upsetting.
It really is. It really is. So we can When I hear you say that story, thank you for sharing, by the way, because I always feel like when we share these vulnerabilities, it feels very personal and intimate to us. But the truth is, you will have just reached a number of women who are listening to the show who are now going to start to look at how they're feeling in a different way. I could literally just cry thinking about it.
Mm,
So, thank you for
mhm.
sharing that. And I'm glad you're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And the
Mm.
thing is, I mean, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, my community is well familiar with it. It's education that I've done for a long time on the show. What I think is most important to take away is the way you feel in your head. All those voices that are inside your head are a result of your chemistry, which can be amended.
Correct.
And there is a solution that isn't about your personality or your willpower or your trauma or any of that stuff. I mean, sure, you amend the hashies, which is a thyroid dysfunction. And then if you've still got those sounds in your head, but maybe they're a lot quieter, that's when you can engage the mental health professionals to help you with what's there. I mean, who doesn't have trauma? Who in Gen X that's in menopause does not have
Big,
trauma?
small T, we all do. Everybody who doesn't, right?
Yes, yes, and it matters because
Yeah.
that shit accumulates, and then we get to this point in our lives. Anyways, the point I wanted to make was really when a woman at midlife shows up with depression, the chances of her issue being low serotonin is so minuscule. And yet that is primarily what gets delivered in the traditional
Treatment.
system.
Yeah, in the
Yes.
treatment.
But there are so many great options for helping ourselves. We can look at the lifestyle things. We can look, are we getting enough sleep? How is our nutrition? Are we taking the supplements that help us support? And this is something that you're very passionate about because you have
Mhm.
created your own supplement line to help with these sorts of things. Can you tell us about that a little bit, please?
Yeah, just before that, I mean, yes to all of that. But what's interesting is in our doctor's visit, in our survey, in one of our surveys, I believe it was the doctor's visits one. Yes, it was. We asked the doctors and the healthcare practice. We asked the women what their doctor, when they shared, their symptoms and their doctor was offering a solution, what the solution was. And the number one solution still today are antidepressants. So to your point, and I had a lot of the doctors say to me, shake their head kind of thing of like, why are we still prescribing that as the number one treatment option? Hormones was just below that. So they were saying how they really hope that that's where, and then supplements was number three, actually, which I thought was really interesting.
Nice.
But hormones, but antidepressants, then hormones and supplements. So a lot of the doctors who were looking at my posters and we were chatting about it were saying that they really hope to see that change in the near future. And I'm very happy to see that supplements are now becoming part of the treatment options or solutions. Because you don't want to ever see. I'm not a doctor, so I don't, we don't treat anybody. But from the survey itself, that's what the question was called. But I like to see that doctors are recommending supplements because supplements today, there is some great research for certain ingredients when it comes to supplements. So I always say, there are foundation supplements that I truly believe women in perimenopause and menopause should look into. So, what are those supplements? So, fiber. Most of us are not getting enough fiber, and we need fiber for so many different things. Very importantly, to helping get rid of waste from our body, food waste, bacterial waste, whatever waste that we no longer need in our body, and also hormones that have metabolized, right? So, we just need to make sure that we are constantly going to the bathroom and once a day minimally. If you're not, there are great fiber supplements out there. Our Fiber S is amazing. It's a soluble prebiotic fiber, has no taste, no texture, no smell, and it works great. So there are options that you could get. Just make sure there's no artificial colors or flavors or anything in there or other
Sweeteners.
additives. Or so, oh yeah, like exactly. No sweeteners
Yeah.
in your fiber supplement. You want to make sure that it's, I'm a big believer in the whole like let's avoid the additives thing as much as we can and be mindful of it. So then you've got fiber, we've got magnesium. We need magnesium. There is such an incredible magnesium on brain health in perimenopause and menopause. So we now know, and that's your area of expertise. So magnesium helps with, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of functions in the body. Most of us don't have enough of it. Blood levels aren't a good indicator of whether you have enough or not. So it's important that we get our magnesium. And by the way, as much as I'm super passionate about supplements, because I do believe it should be a part of our toolbox of our solutions, I do want you to look at your nutrition first, because whatever you can get from your food is important. The issue is, especially when it comes to magnesium, a lot of our food is deficient in minerals. And we know that the food doesn't have the same amount of minerals and antioxidants it did many years ago. So supplementing, which is what a supplement is, it's not your food. You want to start with your food, but you supplement in your supplements. You can't out supplement good nutrition, is important. And then things like omega-3s. I'm a very big fan of fish oil. Great for brain health, great for heart health, right? Are incredible if you have dry skin. And this is this is a solution that if you have itchy ears, because so many of us have itchy ears, and we're like, itchy ears, it's a menopause or perimenopause symptom. Yes, it's a symptom of dryness, because as estrogen levels fall, our mucous membranes can become dry, and they're in our ear, right? We have mucous membranes in our ear, and our skin becomes dry. Everything becomes dry. So omega-3s, make sure you have a good amount. We have our Morphus omega-3 tea. It's called. Take 2 to 3 soft gels a day with food, and you will find that your itchy ears will virtually go away. If you have dry or watery eyes, it's the same thing. Watery eyes can be due to dry eyes. Amazing for that. I had something called meibomian gland dysfunction. My eye doctor said, take omega-3s. I was like, that was before I started our Morphus supplements. So it helps with so many things, dryness of your skin, because it helps to hydrate you from the inside out. So those are good examples. And the other thing is, please look to get your vitamin D levels with your vitamin, and take it with vitamin K. So go to your doctor. We have a list actually of the top 10 tests that I recommend that you bring to your doctor, and I could share them with your audience, Fiona.
Please.
So I recommend always getting your vitamin D levels checked, because if you're deficient in vitamin D, I mean, it can affect your mood, it can affect your sleep, it can affect your immune system, it can affect, your bone health. And then take your vitamin D with a K2 MK7, because what that does is it ushers the vitamin D into the bones, and it helps with the calcium absorption. So those are, those to me are, please, go do the research and find that out, because so many of us need them in this phase of life as our bodies are shifting and changing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So important. I love that you talked about magnesium. That's one of my favorite supplements.
Oh, non-negotiable, non-negotiable. And
Yes.
we need enough of it too, right? Because the research on the brain health was 550 milligrams, I believe, of magnesium. So you get some from your food, get some from your supplements, make sure you are getting enough. Because even if you're taking, let's say, 550 milligrams of, I'm just throwing it out there, let's say you're taking 300 milligrams of magnesium as a supplement, you're not absorbing 300 milligrams. So you want to make sure that you are taking enough, so that you get enough, so that you will see the difference. And we need it. We need it.
I get pretty passionate about giving myself and my people tools that can help with stress management, and I have a new one to share. Just Thrive Probiotics. Stress is at the root of nearly everything that makes life feel harder. Sleep loss, low energy, dissatisfaction, irritability, illness, etc. We can feel powerless to do anything about it, yet our wellness depends on how effectively we can dampen the stress response. Science tells us that high stress is a foundational creator of all of the major chronic diseases. And we know exercise, healthy diet, and meditation are important, but we can still do more to stress less. Probiotics for stress, though? What? Yep. Gut health is connected to overall health, so caring for the gut microbiome can have effects on all systems of the body. Also, 80% of our immune system lives in our gut, so tending to our gut health offers us resilience and protection. The Just Thrive probiotic provides immune support, boosts health, improves sleep, promotes healthy skin, encourages healthy weight management, and supports the gut-brain connection. The Just Thrive Calm features the proprietary Mood Biotic, which is the most heavily researched and verified brain probiotic available. In multiple clinical studies, it's been shown to help effectively manage stress, champion a healthy mood, maintain balanced cortisol levels, drive peak cognitive function and great thinking, promote vitality, and support better sleep quality. I love these probiotics, and I feel differently taking them. I've been taking daily probiotics for 2 decades, but these are different. I am more calm, I sleep better, and I have less digestive upsets. For a limited time, you can save 20% off a 90-day bottle of Just Thrive probiotic and Just Calm when you go to justthrivehealth.com and use the promo code LOVELY. That's justthrivehealth.com, promo code LOVELY. What magnesium form do you like?
Bisglycinate. It's the superhero with the red cape. I kind of look at it like that. There are many different forms and it could get confusing for people, but
Yep.
bisglycinate is my favorite for a couple of reasons. Number one, it does so many different things. And it's gentle on our stomach and it's easy for us to absorb.
Mm. Yeah, that's important.
And sleep, by the way. It's also important for sleep. Sorry, I forgot like one of the most important things.
It's okay. It's okay. That's one of those ones I recommend. We have something called the Dr. Lovely trifecta in the office, and magnesium is an add-on to that. But the basic was probiotics, vitamin D, and fish oil. And then you start to add in things like fiber and magnesium, just depending on what the symptomatology is for patients. These supplements are definitely a primary tool for me and have been for my own health, but
Absolutely.
also for my patients. So important.
So
And not
important.
all supplements are created the same. You were the
Very
one who
true.
you were the one who taught me this. You said so many of the supplements on the market have what they need to have in there, but have a low amount so that it doesn't create any problems for anybody, but it doesn't really create health either.
Well, they put amounts in so they could say that it does something because it has like, you can, I mean, and there's different rules in Canada and the US. In Canada, you actually need a natural product number, an NPN number. You cannot make a claim of a product on a product. So they're very strict in Canada. In the US, you can't really make claims, but it's a little bit looser the way that they do it in the US. So you just want to be mindful, whatever or wherever you're buying your supplements, that it's good quality, that it has an effective dose. And that's what you're referring to,
Mm.
because everything that we have is based on research. And I want to make sure that if I'm going to put an ingredient in, so we use only branded ingredients. So these are ingredients that we know have research behind it. And we want to make sure that if I'm going to put something into a supplement, I want to know that has been the amount that's been researched to help you actually achieve what you want to achieve. Otherwise, you're just, in my opinion, throwing your money away. So you want to make sure that the supplements can be absorbed well. You want to make sure they're third party tested. We third party test all of our supplements. You want to make sure that you have also communication with the brand. I mean, that to me is probably the thing I'm most proud of, is that we're still small enough that we're accessible. So my team and I'm a nutritionist. Our customer service team, we have nutritionists on our team because we want to make sure that while we can't give you advice, we definitely can give you information about our products. And we want to make sure that you're comfortable and that you have a voice on the other side to ask questions to, because that for me is like an important thing. So I pride myself on being able to do that for our customers.
Absolutely. And in a world where customer service seems to be not so common anymore, I'm really happy to hear that, Andrea. It's
Yeah.
uh, it's easy to talk about products when I know that they are supported in the way that yours are and have the research behind them. And we'll be sure to leave the link so that you can go and take a look at the supplements yourself that Andrea and her company have created. I want to go back to something you said earlier, the doctor's visit survey.
Mm.
And what came to mind is this. A patient said to me recently, she said, because I told her we were talking about arthritis. And in this case, she has arthritis seriously enough. She probably needs to have a joint replacement, which was quite devastating to her. And I suggested to her that these are some things you might want to ask your doctor. And this is what she said to me. She said, I don't want to be a bother.
Oh my gosh.
So, in that scenario, when you talk about the number of women that have to go multiple times to get recognized, and then you get the societal stuff of a polite girl stays quiet on top of it, we're screwed. We're screwed. I mean, it's really left to women like you and I who are lippy and we don't settle for no. I know about your mom. You were raised by a strong female, as was I.
I was. My mom is amazing.
Yes. And so, in a lot of ways, we have a voice for patients that do not feel like they have a voice.
What's very frustrating, and having spoken to, I mean, thousands of women at this point, it's that because, and if you look back at the survey, 40% of women are dismissed because of how we're treated. It becomes kind of disheartening, and or we become our, we're like, well, why do it anyways? I'm just going to be dismissed or gaslit, or so it becomes a very, if you, when I look at my doctor's visit survey, I call it that it's our most engaged survey. We, in 2 months, we had over 1,000 responses, and out of those 1,000 responses, 600 women left comments. 600
Wow.
women. And these comments, if you read them, you will start to cry because what these women were going through. So it is very important. Like, so talking about my mother's a great role model. My mother goes to the doctor. She's 77 years old. She goes to the doctor with a clipboard and all her research that she has done
I
with
love
her
her.
pen, and she's got her questions already written out, and she does not care if her I mean, now again, doctors, a lot of them only have 7 minutes, 10 minutes. So I understand depending on what type of practitioner you're seeing and what the time allotment is. So I understand all of that because a lot of women have said that their physicians, and even at the Menopause Society show, they're like, what do? We only have 7-10 minutes to be able to speak to our patients. So getting to the point, don't come with like, obviously like something that's too long that you can't get through. But if you have, top 1, 2, or 3 questions that are pressing, ask those questions, write down the answers, because sometimes we become very flustered in the moment. We're with a doctor, we're being rushed, and then we forget what their answer was. So you can either ask your doctor if they're okay, if you could, I don't know, do a voice to text or something that, that they would be comfortable with if they're allowed. And I would say take notes. And so that you can feel when you walk out of there that you're actually hoping that you get some answers that you're looking for. And hopefully you have a doctor that doesn't dismiss or gaslight you. Right. But I know that unfortunately, like I said, 40% of those women said that they do, and which is
That
needs to
number is
change.
shocking. It's shocking. I mean, I know it's true.
Yeah.
I've been dismissed too. That's how I ended up getting into doing this work with women in perimenopause because, I in my 20s, I had a gynecologist gaslight me more than once. And somehow my intuition said she's not right. And I trusted myself enough to know and here we are all these years later. But that just like for the sensitive and quiet people in society, um, having your doctor dismiss you that many times, I mean, you're not likely to waste your time.
Well, that's what they said, a lot of the women. They're like, I've gone to my doctor 5 times and all they do is, dismiss me and gaslight me. I'm done. I'm just not going back. And that becomes, unfortunately, the norm. So I think that we need proper protocols for physicians, for healthcare practitioners to understand that if a woman in their mid 30s, I have women told me who are in their 50s say that they're not in menopause because their blood levels are in the proper range, or they're too young to be in menopause or perimenopause. I mean, in their 50s. Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
Come
so
on.
this is where, yeah, come
Yeah.
on. Like it's gotta change.
I actually had a pharmacist say that to me recently. She said, I'm 50. I know it's going to start anytime. And I was like,
Yeah. Like, and
right.
women just don't know. And a lot of it is, listen, I was there. I remember I kept thinking when I got my hot flash and at 47, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm 40. Am I menopause? Oh my gosh, I'm so old. Like right away, my brain went to
Mhm.
that. And I'm like, you don't want to know about it, or you want to think. Now, again, we've come a long way and that whole stigma is changing. Thank goodness, because there are a lot of younger women who are in surgical menopause. I mean, it is not, like I say, my grandmother who, like, the name of your podcast, right? Like it's true.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
changing.
Yes.
So I was thinking like, in my mind, at least I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be washed up? Nobody's going to work with me at 50. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. Like, so all of these thoughts go through my mind, but like, I do believe it's changing. We have another survey called a stigma survey on our website, and women are hopeful that things are changing. So we will
Good.
see, yeah, we will see that it's going to start to change, but we do need we need us, and we need our partners, and we need our doctors and healthcare providers to be up
Mhm.
to speed.
Yeah, I too am very helpful, but I also know that if we wait for medicine to embrace this, we're another 20 to 30 years before
Mm,
this Titanic gets turned around.
yeah,
And so that's why I think it's really important that those of us community healthcare providers like you and me, we're out there talking the talk, because the doctors aren't up to speed always. Some of them are, some of them are amazing. I bet you encountered a whole pile of them when you were in Chicago at the
I
Menopause
did.
Society. Yeah,
I did.
which
They were amazing.
is got to make you so hopeful.
Hopeful, it's just still a small number. So we need that
Yes.
number to grow tremendously. And now the nice thing about it is it was the first year the conference was sold out. So that was really exciting for the
Yes.
Menopause Society that, more and more doctors are now they want to learn about it. So it's fantastic. And a lot,
Yes.
it's primarily women who attend there, a very small number of men. So I would love to see more male doctors come because a lot of women have male doctors.
Mhm.
And just because, and I've had a lot of women tell me that even their female doctors don't really know or understand. So I'm hoping to see that there will be a shift a little bit there in terms of who is
Mhm.
attending the conference, and that'll come.
I just recently interviewed a friend who's a family physician here in Canada. She does maternity medicine. And what she said was, look for a doctor around your age, because if she has the experience that you're going through, then chances are she's going to have a better understanding. And that was true for doctors that have had babies or not had babies. It's just a different way of looking at it. But let me share a statistic with you around the doctor's training. So 20% of gynecologists, that's 1 in 5, says they have adequate training in menopause, enough that they could confidently take care of a woman. So that means 4 out of 5 gynecologists, women's healthcare specialists, do not have adequate training and do not feel confident in treating women.
Hmm.
That number blows me away. That's like saying a dentist, 4 out of 5 dentists don't have the ability to drill a tooth to get rid of a cavity. How the hell did we get here? Is what I want to know.
It's interesting. At the show, there was I guess a journalist who came. I think it was Medscape, the name of the
Mm.
journal or the publication, and she was asking me about the doctor's visit survey, and I gave her some quotes because she's putting us in an article, which is exciting. And then there was another doctor who was there when she was asking the question, so she asked me the question, which I wasn't the right person to answer. So I was so thankful that he jumped in. But she was like, "Why do you think more doctors aren't talking about menopause or working with women in menopause?" So obviously you have the education part, but then he piped in and said, there's no money in it. That came from him, a medical doctor. And I had
Whoa.
heard that before. It wasn't the first time I had heard that actually, because I know another doctor who had told me the same thing. Yeah, he said there's no money on it in it. So I was like, whoa, like that's, oh my gosh,
S-
it's coming from them.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to pull apart there. So I remember reading that at the time of the Women's Health Initiative, I believe that Premarin in particular, which is sort of the old school HRT that I'm talking about, I believe it was one of the top 5 most prescribed medications.
Hmm.
So is it just that big pharma hasn't seen that there is actually huge potential here when we start looking at if we're talking about prescribing hormones? Or is it just that it's the doctors that are in the community clinics that are saying, we don't get additional funding for that, so we're just not going to pay attention to it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. In the city I live in, there's a pile of integrative physicians that charge thousands of dollars for these visits. Now they're outside the system, and that's a little unusual for Canada, but Alberta has that two-tiered system here. We can do that here. So I don't know. I'd be curious to ask some more questions about that. Like, where is the connect there? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, this is so out of my lane. This is where I'm like, I don't even know, but yeah, but I can always connect you with him because
Yes.
I'm sure
Yeah.
he'd have a lot of answers for you.
Well, I'm busy thinking about the male doctors that showed up at the Menopause Society meeting. I'm like, those guys have stones, right? But
Yeah.
also, they care enough about their community and their
Yes.
patients that
Yeah.
they're there saying, I need to know more.
Yeah, no, that's why I'd like to see a lot more men come and attend the conference in the future.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. Okay, let's talk about the power of menopause and sort of wrap this up here. So this is a virtual summit that you are hosting at the end of October. Tell us about it, please.
Yeah, so I have 3 partners. So we did a live in-person event last year in Toronto, and this year we went virtual. And it's on October 25th. It's from 9 to 5, and we have incredible experts who are speaking. Even if you can't attend the live event, it's free, by the way. You could just sign up, and you can't attend the actual day. You will have access to the recordings. So even if you can't do it, please sign up. We would love to send you, we'd love you to have access to those recordings after. And we're talking about everything from hormones to brain health, which you're speaking about. I'm speaking about sleep. We have a vaginal health expert who's going to be talking about vaginal health, and we have experts on heart health and nutrition. I mean, we're covering it all. So it's going to be a very exciting day, and it'll be on Zoom, so you can do it from the comfort of your home. And I can give you the link that you could put below that everyone could just go and sign up.
No, that would be amazing. I'm super excited to speak on this topic. It, of course, is a subject near and dear to my heart, and something I'm writing a book on currently too. So we have, how do I say, commiserated on the process of book writing.
I love our texts. They're great. I love it.
I know, and they're X-rated, man. Like, we just cannot be out there. We're not sharing the text messages. There's a lot of swearing that goes on. And this is what I like to say. When you are working in women's health, you need to have swear words because there is I
I
was going
love
to
to
say
swear. So you're preaching to the choir.
there are many fucks left to give on this.
I just love it. I know it's some people are like, no, don't swear. I'm like, nah, I love it.
I'm so past that.
That's hilarious. I love it.
I know. Maybe a better version of myself would be better, but no, I'm good. As long as I'm passing through perimenopause, I give myself permission to have all the swears.
And then once you're in menopause, by the way, even more.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
went through it. We're like toughed it. We toughed through it. We're
we
there on
toughed
the
through
other
it.
side.
Well, and I love this. Thank you for bringing that up because you were the one who said to me this spring when I was lamenting my own misery, you said, it gets so much better. After you stop cycling, it gets much better. Can you leave us with a little nugget of hope, please, Andrea?
Absolutely. So I definitely love being in menopause. Perimenopause I was so in flux. I mean, all the symptoms that I had. Now, listen, a lot of women still have symptoms in menopause, but you can manage them with the toolbox that we talked about, the nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, and hormones, if that's what you choose to do. So there are so many things that you can do today. So that's a good thing.
Mhm.
But I will tell you this. I find that now that I'm in menopause, so I'm 54, I find that I am so much more confident. I feel like I found my superpowers. I feel like I'm able to set boundaries better. I feel like I've just come into my own. And listen, nobody's perfect, and I'm constantly doing the work. I am always doing the work to try and improve myself and lead with kindness and lead with compassion, like you said. So I feel like it's kind of once you're over that hump and you're out of the weeds, when you're in perimenopause, you're in the weeds. You
Oh,
could not see in front of you. I couldn't see in front of me. I couldn't get out of bed most days. Like literally, I couldn't get out of bed most days. So it's like I feel like the worst of it. Yeah, there's still some things that I'm like, oh, we got to work out here and there because once you're in menopause, you're always in menopause for the rest of your life. And this is something that I want to be very clear about is that when people will say, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'll tell them what I do. I'm like, oh, I help women in perimenopause and menopause. And they're like, oh, I'm so past that. And I'm like, no,
mhm.
you're not. You're actually in it and you're in it for the rest of your life. So I
Yeah.
want to be very clear that thinking needs to go because now that you're in menopause or you're in perimenopause and you're in menopause, now is when the work really begins because we are more susceptible to certain things. But we're also like finding ourselves, finding our power, finding ourselves again. Like a lot of us feel like, what happened to me? Where's my old self? A lot of that does come back and stronger and better. And it's an
Oh,
opportunity to start again or pick up from where you left off and just really like I started my third company when I was in menopause. I couldn't even think about anything in perimenopause. I started my third company in menopause. I got my mojo back. I got, my power back. So it does get better. And I do love this phase of life. I love my 50s. And had you asked me this at 47 when I got that first hot flash, I would have been like, Are you crazy? 50 is so old. And I'm like, no, I don't. I feel really young. I still have a 13-year-old at home. I had a child at 41. Like I had my kids later. I feel really young, at least in my mind, mentally. I feel really young. So I feel like it does get better. I really do.
So what you're saying is the best is yet to come.
I think so. I love
Oh,
it.
thank God. I'm looking forward to it. I will text you. Recently, I had the experience of going 6 months without a period, and then I got a period. I was like, oh, I have to start all over again. Damn it!
Yeah, that's so common. I do a lot of videos of like, oh, it's 11 months and 21 days. Ah, there you go. Hello. Hello, Aunt Flo.
Just exactly. You just goes to show you, you can't go without a tampon for at least like have one in your bag. It's in your.
Always.
I've got one in my car. I've got them in my desk in the office. I've
Yep.
got.
You're
You know,
prepared.
you must be. Mother Nature has a sense of humor, and yes, speaking of Mother Nature and her sense of humor, you can still get pregnant in perimenopause.
Yes, you can. So be
Lots.
careful. I did.
Yes.
I got pregnant in perimenopause. I didn't know I was in perimenopause, but I got pregnant in perimenopause.
Yeah.
I was 40 when I got pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mother Nature has a sense of humor. Just do not mess around with the fates. Anyways, thank you for coming on the show. How do people find out more about you, about the Power of Menopause event, etc.?
So you could go to my website, which is wearemorphous.com and thepowerofmenopause.com. I'm going to give you, you can put the links below, Fiona, like in the show notes.
Yeah,
Okay, great. So you'll have the
will
links
do.
below. So thepowerofmenopause.com to sign up for our virtual event or virtual summit. Wearemorphous.com for our, any information, the symptoms, our research. If you can go there and fill out our surveys, I would be super grateful. We even have a libido survey that we're now going to submit as well. So I think we're just at 1,000 responses for that, which is really exciting. And then we have some new ones that we're going to come out with, some new surveys. And then you could follow me on social media. I'm very active on TikTok at Andrea Donsky. And then we also have Instagram at We Are Morphous. So we're all over social media and YouTube. We actually have grown tremendously on YouTube. We post all of our videos on YouTube as well. So
Amazing. Amazing. All right, listeners of the show, no, I have final questions. Now, one of these questions I have asked you already, and
okay.
the other one I'll ask you today. It's our newer question. So there's a little bit of a backstory.
Okay.
So, are you aware, by the way, that the Canadian government is looking at HRT available for all women across the country?
Well, I know they already, I think it's in BC. They've done it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not been implemented yet, but it is coming.
Amazing.
Um, so they're sort of following the trend that was set by the National Health Services in the UK, who have made hormone treatment available to all women in the perimenopause transition. And sometime in the last year, became aware of some really very pro-feminine moves by governments across the planet. In France, every woman of any age has access to a pelvic floor physio,
Amazing.
no charge. I have become aware that in the Netherlands, when you give birth, the government provides you a night nurse for a certain number of weeks after giving birth so
Amazing.
that mom can sleep and recover from having gone through this massive transition of having a baby and the
Incredible.
physical experience of having labor and delivery. And just some very pro female things we're seeing about menopause in the workplace and menstruation and menstrual symptoms in the workplace and how women are given time away without being docked pay or seniority, etc. So when I hear this, Andrea, I think, all right, so Canada's a progressive place. We have a maternity leave that is paid here in Canada. What if we could create a paid menopause leave? And a
Mm,
woman can take a year off at any point in her menopause journey, and she gets support from her government on whatever thing she feels is helpful: psychotherapy, massage therapy, chiro, nutrition, a gym membership, a yoga studio membership, a sauna in her basement, um, any of those things, and so much more. Maybe it's trips away to these med spas you hear about in Europe. I mean, why don't we have those here? We need more of those. Like what is it that you would, hearing that, what would you do with your year that was paid and supported by our government. What would you like to see happen in that time?
Any and all of that for sure.
Okay.
mean listen, that's a very, very big question and actually something that I am working on, and working towards. So what I'm hoping is that and it's very it's great to see all of these countries and provinces who are now stepping up and helping women. And in Canada, obviously, and depending, where you live, these all cost a lot of money. So what I'm hoping is that we would see some type of stipend that would be given to women. So whether if it's a leave and it goes similar to how they did mat leave, I mean that would be obviously incredible. But if you couldn't they couldn't go that far, I'd love to see a certain amount of money that would be allocated to women to say, "Here, this is what we give you." I guess it's a bigger discussion, but I think anything that's gonna help women. So if you have the HRT, they wanna put it toward if it does go national and women are gonna be covered for HRT, then that wouldn't be part of it. But if it isn't, they wanna put it towards hormones. They wanna put it towards self-care. They wanna put it toward trips. Whatever it is, it would be up to the women to do that. And I think anything that has to do with mental health, self-care, helping their body physically, and if they want to go to an integrated practitioner or they want to go to a chiropractor or they want to go to whoever it is they want to go to, they have the ability to choose what it is they want to do to help their health, because we all have different ways of looking at things, right? So I think whatever it is that you choose to do, that's what I would like to see it go towards. And I would like for us to be able to make that decision.
Like a menopause health spending plan.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
like that. I like that a lot. Andrea, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Fiona. It was awesome.
My pleasure. The information and other content provided in this show, or in any linked materials, is not intended and should not be construed as medical advice, nor is the information a substitute for professional medical expertise or treatment. We are doctors, but we aren't your doctor. Seek your doctor's opinion. If you or any other person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical treatment. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have heard in this podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The opinions and views expressed on this page and in this show have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, health practice, or other institution. Thank you.